Good morning. My name is Carson Seal, and welcome to your first day at Rigney's Manufacturing. Today, you are going to hear from 4 employees of the company, and we are going to discuss our policies on harassment. I will be speaking to you about retaliation. Rebecca will be speaking to you about sexual harassment. Jarrell will be discussing verbal harassment. And finally, Morgan will discuss discrimination. Please keep in mind, our company has a zero tolerance policy, and please enjoy. Let's begin with retaliation. Retaliation is any adverse action taken against an employee for filing a complaint. Unfortunately, workplace retaliation happens more than one might think. But remember, retaliation is always wrong, no matter the circumstance. Let's start with phone retaliation. Let's say an employee calls their supervisor to file a complaint against another person in management. The employee had the expectation that the conversation would remain confidential and would only be heard by others that were necessary. The supervisor is friends with the other employee in management and puts the telephone call on speakerphone and allows the employee in management that is having the complaint filed against them listen to the entire conversation. The employee in management retaliates against the employee that filed the complaint by calling them and assigning them extra work, making the employee complete jobs that are not part of their job duties. Now, if this were to happen to you, what you should do is speak with someone in human resources about what happened to you or speak to your supervisor's superior. Document everything that you have been made aware of so you have proof of everything that's happened. Next is email retaliation. Let's say employee A emails supervisor complaining of behavior of their counterpart, employee B. Employee A forgets to lock their computer and leaves the email up for everyone to see. Employee B sees the email sent to the supervisor and becomes very upset with employee A by talking behind their back and telling all of the other coworkers every little thing employee A does wrong. When delegating work, employee A gives employee B all of the difficult work and gives all of the other counterparts easier workloads via email. What you should do in this situation is speak with your supervisor and let them know of the situation. Be sure to lock your computer to protect not only your information, but information of others too. Another option is to talk to the employee yourself and ask them to change their behavior or come into an understanding that works for everyone. But remember, don't ever put yourself in a situation that makes you uncomfortable. That doesn't work for anybody. Lastly, for retaliation is face-to-face retaliation. Let's say employee A calls into work sick on a day an assignment is due. Employee A was working with employee B to finish the assignment. During a work meeting, the supervisor assigns new projects to employees. After the assignment, employee A blurts out, "Whoever gets stuck with employee A better be prepared to do the entire project themselves since employee A always calls in sick." If this were to happen to you, talk to your supervisor and let them know of the situation. If it doesn't get handled appropriately, go to HR and ask for advice. Our company has strict policies against retaliation. Either someone in management or a compliance officer will handle it in that point, so make sure you go through the appropriate channels.
Sexual harassment in the workplace. Sexual harassment happens to more women than men, but can happen in a workplace or a professional or social situation, involving unwanted sexual advances or obscene words or suggestions. 2 examples. A day in the office. Joe slaps Tina on the butt in the printing room. Another one outside of work in a social situation. While out for coffee, Mike was telling Sam how much he would like to put his whipped cream on her instead of his hot chocolate. The corrective action. Tina should report the situation to her boss, maybe suggest cameras in the room so it doesn't happen again. For Mike, Sam can just tell him that he is inappropriate and wish for him to never speak to her like that again. Excuse me. Phone sexual harassment. Making lewd, indecent, or obscene comments, suggestions, or requests over the telephone. While on the phone with Bill in the next room, he asks if you want to stand up and bend over so he can get a better angle of your backside in that sexy dress. A corrective action. In the workplace, I would correct him over the phone. I would tell him he's in the wrong and you are going to report him. I would then tell my supervisor about the comments Bill made while on the phone with each other. Email sexual harassment. Sending inappropriate, obscene comments or suggestions via email when they are unwanted or wanted. An example, Jill and John were having a conversation via email. Jill, his manager, proceeded to tell John she liked his tie. He thanked her. Jill came back with suggestions with what she would like him to do to her with his tie, such as it would look much better on her tied up. A corrective action, putting John in an uncomfortable situation with his boss. He replied that he was happily married, and with no disrespect, he wishes she would not talk to him like that with him as he loves his wife very much, and that kind of behavior is inappropriate. If this still was happening, then John would have to go over to his manager's or go over his manager's head to her boss or the HR.
Hello, my name is Jarrell Neighbors, and I am an employee at Rigney Manufacturing. I have been a victim of verbal abuse. Verbal abuse, as defined from workplace.com, verbal abuse is the only type of abuse that can affect every single person with any type of communication ability or understanding. You may be assaulted by verbal abuse at work, at home, at school, on the road, or as simple as walking through a park, and there is nothing you can do to prevent it. You can even be a victim of verbal abuse if you live alone, because if you self-talk, the voice in your head diminishes you or your belief in yourself in any way, then you have been a victim of verbal abuse, because you allow your inner critic to put you down. No one anywhere is immune to verbal abuse. The type of verbal abuse that I have been a victim of at my current employment at Rigney Manufacturing is face-to-face. Face-to-face abuse, by definition, from healthyworkplace.com, is the threatening, yelling, cursing, insulting, and mocking a victim or victim either in front of people or in private. Verbal abuse in the workplace may be elusive, and what bothers one person may not bother another. Verbal abuse is hard to prove in the workplace. An example of verbal abuse that I have been a victim of is my boss yelled and curses at me and other employees in front of everyone, and continues to yell and assault me in the office in front of everyone on the shop floor. This is a form of verbal abuse. This is something that I face day to day. What I did as a corrective action to prevent this issue, I documented all the times and the dates that these events happened, and I went to talk to my human resources representative, and they spoke to my boss, and I was able to get moved off the team because I didn't feel comfortable afterwards. If you are going through these type of situations, you need to go to your human resources representative with your documentation, with your written times and dates. You need to present them to your human resources representative and let them know that you don't feel comfortable. Allow them to either talk with your boss. If you don't feel comfortable after that, then allow them to move you off of their team, put you on another team, on another shift, or possibly in another building. If you think you have been a victim of verbal abuse, you can research it at healthyplace.com. My name is Jarrell Neighbors.
Hi, I'm Morgan Lawrence, and I'm from Rigney Manufacturing Company. This short video is to discuss the different types of discrimination that can happen in the workplace and how employees and new employees that come into the company should handle these certain situations. Now, the definition of discrimination is the unjust or unfair treatment of people of different races, different ethnicities, different ages, different disabilities, any type of derogatory terms, respect issues, or anything dealing with these types of people. That is called discrimination. Now, I have direct discrimination, indirect discrimination, pregnancy discrimination, and other such things. Now, in the workplace, an example of phone discrimination would be when someone calls your department and they're talking about a really big upcoming project that's happening, and you're female and you're the leader of this group. Now, the caller is male, and when you guys are discussing your, when you're trying to talk about your points about this, he goes, "You just won't get my idea. Let me talk to a male." Now, that is a form of discrimination because, one, you're female, and two, he doesn't think your ideas will be well enough. Now, the corrective action would be you going to your management and talking about different ways around this, or how you might have or should have handled this situation and what can be done. Now, if nothing happens then, you need to go up to the HR department and they should be able to handle it accordingly. Now, a form of email discrimination could possibly be your boss sends you an email talking about a new employee and different references that they need. Well, you are a gay male and your email address is flowerpower123@gmail.com. He makes a crude joke on behalf of your email being too gay. Now, one, we all know that's blatant discrimination for the sole fact that you are gay. And two, no human being should ever say that, regardless of if they're just joking or not, because of how it can be taken. Now, the corrective action would be going above his head to the HR department, to his boss, because I feel like that would be the only way that this could be resolved without somebody potentially losing a job. The HR department should be able to definitely handle this accordingly. Now, face-to-face discrimination can be multiple different ways. The example that I'm using is there's a big party that your company is throwing, and there are many different people from all around, big companies, big wigs, they're all coming in. Now, a very pregnant woman is walking around mingling with guests, and she walks up to a big group of males who seem to be discussing a really big project that she is in fact involved in. She starts, inputting her ideas and her actions and what she thinks should happen, just like all the males in the room. And one male goes, "What does it even matter? You're pregnant. Aren't you going to be leaving anyways?" For one, how are you going to tell me that my opinions or my thoughts don't matter just because I'm pregnant? That is blatant discrimination. Now, the corrective action will be going to management and letting them know what's going on and letting them know that maybe this type of discrimination is still really happening and how you should have handled it and how you can handle it in the future. Any other further comments such as these can usually be handled by the HR department. Your HR department will always be able to handle certain situations like this. Now, I hope that this video has helped with the new employees that are coming in, and just know that discrimination is still very much alive, and no matter how much we try, no matter how much we need to resolve issues like this, there are proper ways to handle discrimination in the workplace. I hope this helps. Thanks. Bye.
I hope you found this information useful, and we're so glad you are joining our team. Please never be afraid to speak up if there's a wrongdoing occurring. Enjoy your time here at Rigney's Manufacturing. You've picked a great place to work. Have a wonderful day.